Anti-fragility is an entrepreneur's favorite new buzzword, but what does it actually mean? What character traits make a business owner anti-fragile? Do you even want to have anti-fragility? Who is to say that being mentally fragile is a bad thing when it is possibly the most authentic expression of human experience? To answer these questions, I brought on today's guest, Valeria Stavitska. She's an online community builder, writer, and entrepreneur. My name is Ryan Lang. I've spent the past 5 years of my life studying the highest performers on the planet. My mission is simple: to make it effortless for you to work harder than you've ever worked in your life while getting jacked, sleeping more, and building a business that you love. Joining the games today, Valeria Stavitska. Why are entrepreneurs so mentally fragile?
I have been living my whole life so far in Ukraine, and I'm still there. And I have had to go through a lot of different mental transformations myself, and a lot of identity reshaping. And the main thing, I think, why a lot of people are so mentally fragile, in some way, they have victim's mindset and childlike behavior, but in a negative way, is exactly because we cannot just go ahead and reshape ourselves at our own will, and we let others shape ourselves. So, just quick example. And this is exactly the video that got me probably the most followers, the most fans, and like all of the stuff that I ever wanted. And I actually recorded this while sitting in a cold room, in a dark room specifically, and in one sweater, be like, I'm so tired and I'm so fed up of hearing my mom complaining about the fact that we have blackouts in here. So, if you don't know, and I mean, a lot of people don't know, basically, one of the main problems is that usually in winter there are Russians are just attacking important infrastructure, and that's why we have blackouts. And so, when you have blackout in winter, the whole heating system doesn't work. And so you're sitting there, it's minus 15 degrees outside, Celsius, and it's dark. And you have nothing to do because internet doesn't work. And obviously, a lot of people are collapsing at this point. They have mental breakdowns, they're sitting there, and the only thing that they have to do to entertain themselves is actually talk to through phone, with phone, whatever, to their friends, family, whoever, and complain about it. But instead, can't you go ahead and do something with it? Meaning, you could either pluck yourself out of this situation, and obviously, it's not that easy for a lot of people, or you can go ahead and take whatever you have and do something about it. Okay, I can't turn electricity on, but I can at least go ahead and work on things that I have to work on in order to either get myself out here or just in general to feel mentally sane. And this is the easiest example of, I think, in my case, mental fragility of some people and what it is to be anti fragile and to actually take whatever situation you have and turn it in your favor, to say the least.
So, what exactly were you doing during those dark times? Like, whenever your friends were probably just on the phone with each other, trying to find comfort through that, what were you doing that helped you get through that time?
Okay, and actually, I think that that time is exactly what made me so disciplined in general, way more disciplined than even this book that I have right in my background, is just the fact that you were time constrained. And so we had a whole schedule, sort of a schedule, because it wouldn't always work, of blackouts, where we would have 4 hours of no electricity and 2 hours with electricity. And so the main issue with it is that when you actually have to do work, you only start sort of getting into zone in those 2 hours, and then you don't have like, you know, electricity and all of this. And so in those dark times, they were actually perfect for sitting there alone with myself and realizing whether I need to change the trajectory in some way, or whether I need to go ahead and maybe change something up in terms of what I'm doing in order to maximize those 2 hours. Do I need to rest? Do I need to work out? I can do so much without actually having to go ahead and having like some distractions out here because I don't have internet. So it's like, all right, cool. So that was probably the best reshaping also of how I would work. And in general, it also allowed me to get into deep focus as well if I needed to, because there are many things that we can do without internet and then put them out onto the internet, basically.
Yeah, okay. So whatever you do have access to all the distractions with the internet, with social media and all that, how do you kind of make the decision of the things to do to not get distracted and to like stay locked in, to stay focused and, work on things that actually move the needle instead of just succumbing to the distractions?
Oh, that's a good one because, we all need to realize that we're actually just faulty humans. And that's it. We're not machines. And for the longest while possible, throughout the whole history of who I've been, I've always tried to make myself a machine. And a lot of people are actually trying to do this. And when we're going all into self help, we have this image of a perfect robot who we need to become. And I feel like at some point it's going to fail in some way because we're actually having now real robots. And it's like we're humans for some reason and for a very good reason because we're not robots. We're not meant to work all of this time and especially work on something that we hate. We're definitely not meant for that. Um, and so that's why it's hard to cut out distractions unless you go ahead and actually cut them out instead of like try to resist through willpower or whatever. Because obviously it's like this is what we are. We're just in nature, we are like this. We love to do something that is easy, something that is sort of enjoyable, at least in the moment. I would say that there's no single best recipe rather than just cutting everything off. Obviously not turning electricity off, but at least throwing the phone away while you're at computer. And sort of doing a meditative practice in a way. Because unless you're fully aware of what you're doing, you're just gonna start surfing the web real quick.
We're like doom scroller or something like that. You mentioned two principles. So I just read Atomic Habits again, and you mentioned two of the core principles that James Clear says about habit building, which is obviousness, like something needs to be obvious, and something needs to be
Yeah.
easier for you to do. And I guess if we're just to like think about internet, for example, right? So if you're find yourself like getting distracted by scrolling Twitter or searching the web just mindlessly, something that James Clear did, or an anecdote that he used to explain just the idea of environment, is
Hmm.
there was this dude that whenever he wanted to build the habit of going to bed all the time, he would find himself going onto his phone and just like, texting people or responding to emails or something right before, like in bed. And so what he would do was he would go upstairs and turn off like unplug the internet router so that he physically could not have internet. And so he couldn't use his
Yeah.
phone, he couldn't respond to text, he couldn't email people. And instantly, he doesn't need to use any willpower at all to resist the temptation to go on his phone because he physically can't. And so the only option he has is to go to bed or
Yeah.
like read a book or something, which are both good things, which are both like, I guess, better than scrolling on a phone. And so, yeah, when you mention willpower, when you mention things, making things easy and obvious, it doesn't really boil down to like how powerful you are within, because that's a limited resource. I feel like we want to allocate our inner power to certain things, but if you're able to eliminate the distractions like physically and make them, there's just like cut them out, like unplugging the router it makes it so much easier to build good habits, to do focused work, you know?
Yeah, and this also has to do with how many decisions in the day we can make, actually. Because like right now, you're sitting in this shirt, and you just reminded me of how like Steve Jobs used to have like only one outfit, which would be like his like black golf and like pants and all of
Blue
this stuff.
jeans, yeah.
And yeah, yeah, or jeans, yeah. And I was like, hey, this is actually what we all have to do. Because we all somehow assume that we are superhumans, and there is no doubt that we have special superpowers. But why would you waste it on making simple choice of either wasting your potential on TikTok or on Instagram, or going ahead and doing something that would make you move forward? But then there's also another point which you've mentioned, which I've always wondered about and which I've always found funny, is how for us right now in our generation, going ahead and reading the book before bed, so cool. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna read like 10 pages if I can. If I can't, I won't read them. So little people currently in our generation, maybe I'm wrong though, but I've heard of so little cases of people being like, I've read this book whole night. Well, in like past generations, if you take before us, with like, let's say, who only had like TV, I mean, at least here, I would often like talk to older people and they would be like, my mother would take away books from me because I was reading them for too much and I was not doing the work. Right now, mothers would give books to their kids and they would not read it. We're just always going and falling onto the easiest thing to do. And it's just up to us to make that easiest norm something that is productive to us, or at least helps us in recovery better than what we are already using. And then, so this goes to show the relativity basically. Everything is just an individual standard. It's like you can see a lot of also memes right now sprouting about how, oh, in one weekend, Elon Musk showed us like three new things, like three new innovations. And in this weekend, I don't know, mopped the floors and washed the dishes in my house. That's it. I'm unproductive. You just work and you build up to this. I've always, first time when I ever just tried to get into self improvement by just simply having a bullet journal, but this is like so old school. It's like everybody with their Notion dashboards and Obsidian
Mhm.
second brains. They were like laughing at me right now in confusion, being like, "What bullet journal? Like, is it like just writing the to-do list on the paper? No way." And every single time when I would write all of this, I would be like, "Am I even doing enough? Like, is there an objective way to like measure if I'm doing enough or not? How can I ever know? Hey, can somebody tell me?" This is one big frustration that has always led to me thinking of like whether I'm worthy enough, whether I'm good enough, whether, all of those different things. And so this relativity, it goes onto all of those different things, as well as onto what we actually enjoy doing and what we don't enjoy doing, and what we give enough effort and what we don't give enough effort. Because if you aren't giving enough effort consistently, maybe at least like there's like 10% chance or something, probably bigger, that you're just not doing the thing that you are meant to be doing in this moment. Because I bet there are some moments when you're like, I don't want to record this, but most of the time you do want to record this. And when you don't want to record this, you're like, it's weird, something is weird going on with me. Like, I gotta do something, I gotta record this. Come on. I always love doing it. Or am I wrong? Are we forcing y'all to record those podcasts, Ryan?
No, actually, I was really looking forward to this one. But I definitely have those moments. It's not for the interview episodes because there's more stake, but for the solo episodes, I'm just like, sometimes it's really, really painstaking to set up my tripod, put my phone on there, and then click record. Yeah, for some of the episodes, it's painful, but for the interviews, it's usually been like fun because it's so new every week, and I get to like learn about your life, learn about your business, learn about who you are. And so that's the reason why I got into podcasting. It's because of these kind of conversations. But for certain aspects of podcasting, it is not fun. Like the editing is definitely my least favorite. Uh, Sometimes recording solo episodes can get a little painful, but generally speaking, I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy researching the guests, learning about you, and then having the conversation with you, and then even editing the interview episodes is a little bit more enjoyable. So, yeah, I'd say whenever you find something that actually means something to you, 90% of the time it will feel that way. Like you won't feel like you're not doing enough because you'll always be doing enough whenever you're doing something that you love. At least that's the way I see it. And I
Yeah.
guess the the problem that a lot of people face is that they don't know what they love. And that's something I struggle with a lot. I don't know if you know who the self improvement YouTuber Hamza is, but I used to watch his videos, and he basically speaks to the young teenage dude that's just getting into self improvement. And whenever I found him, I was essentially absorbing all of his advice and just like flipping my life on its head and just becoming the person that he tells me to become. And so and he would tell people to find the thing that you love, you have to go stare at a wall for hours and then just like let your thoughts figure it out. And so I did that. I journaled, I did the meditation, I did everything. I did cold showers, I did all the stuff that the self improvement people are saying,
Yeah.
telling me to do. And that wasn't even the answer. Like the way I figured out that I wanted to do the podcast was literally just it was like on a walk. Like it was just random. It was just a random moment whenever I was just by myself, alone with my thoughts. And the idea just came to me. And it was like in the midst of being in that X growth kind of fit. Like I was trying to coach people, I was trying to consult for people, helping them with their X growth. And so I was
Yeah.
amidst that when I realized I don't even want to be doing this anymore. I actually want to do a podcast and actually want to meet cool people and share their stories through a podcast. So that's kind of how I found this. And I'm curious to hear more about like what you think about like finding the things that you love and how that kind of helps you combat the fragile nature of our minds, because when you do find something that you love, it's very difficult to not want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then it's difficult to not give it like 1,000% that you have. And then that might also lead to frustration. That's also a big part where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore because it's like, that's too much. It's like, I'm fed up with it and all of this. I mean, though, when this begins, and I sort of hit that point myself, as of right now, not gonna lie, where I'm just fed up with old ways. And I think in those moments, this is exactly where you have to readjust and you have to rethink what you like doing, actually. And so it's really hard for us humans to throw away what we have had for a while, no matter how much some of us might love innovation. There's like this bell curve where there are some people who love innovation, they're the first one to get some new products, and they're like masses, and then there are like last ones who are like getting everything. Like people who are old in age and they're just walking there with Nokia 3310, like
Yeah.
all of the time, 3310. Yep. And basically, it's like nature of life. And so there are some people who are willingly being like, I don't like doing this. Even though I haven't been in this career for 10 years, I'm going to throw it away and start something. Then there are masses in general. People are afraid of leaving something behind that they've used to have. And that's why our brains, crawl back to safety and try to pull us back. And this is something that I have been experiencing, even though I really enjoy actually exploring new things. I enjoy going ahead and just learning about something new and then writing about it online. And this is exactly how I got into Twitter. Still, I was terrified. And I'm still terrified to this day, even though I am like understanding that there's like nothing wrong with it. It's all good. It's all fine. It's like, it's not that I don't have like some stability or anything, hopefully everything is fine. But still, I just have this mechanism of like even my brain not thinking about creating this new idea just to make sure that I am safe. And so this is exactly also why you got this idea for this podcast while walking. It just randomly matched you. Not exactly when you were like 8:30 a.m. I am waking up and now I'm sitting and staring at the wall. And hopefully this idea is gonna come to me because I made sure that this idea of podcasting is gonna come to me at 9 a.m. today. This is gonna be a groundbreaking, life-changing idea. Usually that doesn't happen. We don't work this way, sadly. Even though I wish we could be like, I need $1 million idea right now. I'm
And
gonna
just code
execute
it
on it.
up, just like write up some code and it instantly the program spits out the answer.
Yes. And for me, well, so basically before Warzone started, and that was like this like breaking moment for me because obviously when you're being hit with the thought that you might die tomorrow, or heck, you might die at this second when this plane was like exactly passing in the morning when it was dawn of 24th of February 2022. I was just like, hey, I might have died right now. What was I doing? And at that moment, for retrospection, I was just waking up every single day, no matter what, thanks to this guy, okay, at 4 a.m. and just coding for like hours straight before I would go to school, then come back, code again, sleep, rinse, repeat, like typical programmer. As you can understand by my talkativeness, I'm definitely not a programmer. Okay, I just talk too much. I love yapping. How the heck can I be a programmer? Probably I can't. I mean, I can, but I just don't want to. And now I understand it. Back at that time, that thought of me leaving coding behind and just doing community building, if I were to tell myself from like this height to me back then, I would not believe it. Like I was just straightforward person. Like, hey, I'm coding this thing up. I'm gonna get this. It's like that's it. Everything works like this. Everything is rational. Not everything is rational. Sadly, we aren't. And that's why we make dumb decisions. Sometimes we make genius decisions that seem to us dumb at this moment. And
It's just human.
that was, yeah, it's just human. And exactly when I allowed myself a room to breathe, and it happened at 6 months, because I was like, okay, maybe I do not need to code anymore. Because at that moment, obviously, I got hit up like quite hard by that plane, thanks to it. And I just realized that if I were to die right now doing the thing that I hate, that would have been embarrassing to say the least. Hey. So in 6 months, I figured something out, and it all happened in a day, and I did not force it. I did not force myself to find Twitter. I did not research about it for hours and hours on end. It just randomly happened that when I was scrolling through whole Google for no reason at all, I just found random account. That random account was actually Suleiman's account, and right now we're like still sort of in touch, and that's so cool. People who you can look up to can actually later on become your friends. That's like most incredible thing ever about internet actually.
Mhm.
And I just remember that day when I just randomly found his Discord server. There were 8 people, and I landed my first job in here. It's like, here we go. Yes, I was a VA. Yes, I was paid as much as a person who would have mopped here floors for 10 hours straight, 6 days a week. But what? But I made it online. That was mind blowing to say the least. But it just goes to show how if you learn to trust yourself, if you learn to trust your own guidance in a way, intuition in a way, and you just learn to surrender, beautiful things might happen to you. Even more beautiful than you might have ever expected it to be. And I
How do
think
you
this is exactly the key to, sorry for interrupting, yeah.
no, you
I
go
think
ahead,
this
go ahead.
is like finding what you enjoy doing. And this is exactly what you also did. Just walking.
Mm.
Secret to everything. But yeah, go
Besides
ahead.
talking, what are the other seemingly some people would think that going on a walk or just getting an Americano to, just relax for a bit is a waste of time or a waste of money. But what are the other kind of things that you can do in your life? So for me, it'd be like taking a hot shower or going for a walk or just doing something that isn't necessarily productive. What are the behaviors that you've done in your life that are kind of simple, but have brought you the most kind of strength, like inner strength, and kind of like the idea of anti-fragility? Like, what kind of behaviors have you done in your life that have built upon your anti-fragility?
That's a good one. I mean, everything that you've said, those are good ways to relax. Also, I would say that everything that builds up anti fragility is everything that lets us empty ourselves out and let something good come in. Because when you're sad, stressed, depressed, anxious, angry, whatever that is, when you're in all of those states, you just can't even think clearly. Like, how do you expect anything good come to you? And how do you expect from yourself to actually input and like output everything? That's impossible. And so, what I figured for myself out is that when I'm too angry and when I'm too much in the past, the best thing ever is to actually run instead of like actual lifting weights. I don't know why, how it works for me. Basically, when I lift weights, I'm more in like let me pump myself up, um,
Yeah.
get in the pump, pumping myself. Basically, that's how it works for me. But when I'm running, and I recently also tweeted about it, I think that's why you mentioned Americano. Hey, Americano with cream is the aid for everything. I'm gonna be promoting this idea everywhere and spreading it. This is the only drink that you need in your life for everything. But okay,
No water.
jokes aside, yeah, no water. Americano with cream. Like, doctors are lying to you when they're telling you that you have to drink 3 liters of water per day or whatever that is. This is not correct. Correct data is you have to drink at least one Americano with cream, certified by me.
That'll be my
Well,
thumbnail for this video.
yes, this is the trusted source, okay, of information, actually. So, but yeah, jokes aside, this is how it works. Also, it is literally doing something that you think is stupid. And here's what I mean by that. So nobody goes ahead and does something really bad, really terrible, like plugging, I don't know, 2 fingers into plug or like whatever places they don't need to plug them into. I don't know. And going ahead and fixing some electrical cords outside when it's like wet
Mhm.
everywhere and all of this. Just none of that. Or placing their hand on stovetop. Don't do that. Uh, just saying, in case. Because a lot of people are talking about how when you can't place a hand on stovetop, it's like obvious because it's like your instinct. And it also goes to show that if you fear something, obviously you're not going to go ahead and do it, and that's why you must confront your fears and like do all of this. But it's like, don't place your hand on stovetop, please. So same thing here. But basically, something that is stupid sometimes for me is actually going ahead and plugging myself out of work and plugging myself into something that I extremely enjoy. Spending some time with my niece. So literally go ahead and find some young kid and go ahead and bring them as much joy as you would love to bring to your young self. Because the most happiness that I ever experienced is when I'm given her everything that I've ever wished for when I was a kid. That's like an extremely good one for me. Another extremely good one for me is going to actual like simulator of like cars and going ahead and driving it just for no reason. Just want to going ahead and journal and letting all of my thoughts out because I randomly write some poetic stuff, then I send it to my friend at 1 a.m. and then they're like, thumbs up, I really love what you're doing, keep going. I'm like, oh, thanks. I know that I like you don't actually love it, and they're like, no, I love it, send it to me. Then someone might randomly hit me up and be like, write for 5 minutes right now. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm right now doing this work. No, write for me for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, there is some point in it, actually. And so doing all of those seemingly stupid things is actually what lets us down maybe some greater roads. For someone, it might be saying yes to some random podcast or just writing to someone to hop on a random podcast, because it's like, it's not productive actually, but it's like, it's enjoyable. And it's
Mhm.
productive in other ways that we just don't see yet. Or maybe just dancing to some random music. Like, this is the way of life, like letting ourselves live and not being like robots. I'm talking too much about robots. I guess like when machines rise, they're just gonna kill me. I'm telling you.
You're gonna be the
There
first on
goes.
the list.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna be number one priority to like destroy, and that's it.
I want to touch upon the idea of doing something for the sake of doing it, and I feel like the adolescent part of my life, so like my teenage years, have been very underread. Like I in elementary school, I was reading a ton of books because we had these tests we could take. We read the book, then we took a test on it, and we got points. So there was kind of some positive reinforcement stuff going on. So that's why I read a lot when I was little. But then because of that, I got really, really turned off by reading. So whenever I was in middle school until high school, until like late teenage years, I did not read at all, besides for the books that the classes required. And now I'm starting to get back into reading. So reading a lot of nonfiction, some sci-fi, some fiction, some of the classics. And
Mhm.
the self-improvement side of me is saying, oh, you should stop at every sentence and highlight it and take notes and put it into a conceptual map and put it into my second brain so I can study it later. And then the other side of me is saying, this is actually advice I got from Naval Ravikant. He says that he doesn't read for self-improvement. He reads to satisfy his curiosity. And I love that mindset. I love the mindset of not just doing something for the sake of productivity or for some kind of outcome or to like self-improve, but just for the sake of doing it, just reading for the pleasure of it, reading because you're trying to satisfy your curiosity. And it doesn't just apply to reading, it applies to everything, hopping on a podcast isn't necessarily the most productive, going to make you
Yeah.
10K a month thing you could do, but it's enjoyable and it's just life. The reason why we're alive is so that we can live. And the reason why people work so hard on their business or their 9 to 5 is so that they can have the promise of a life in the future when they're literally alive right now. And there's very little barrier. It's just living that life as it is.
That is so true because, some more spiritual people are gonna be like, oh, you just gotta embody the identity, like time hasn't caught up yet. If we don't take it as like woo woo stuff, basically pull that future that you want into your now. There's definitely, I mean, obviously, you can't immediately live a lifestyle of a millionaire. Yeah, it's like obvious one. But maybe you can afford like 1/100th of it in some way, shape, or form. And maybe for like this moment you can feel like you are actually on the way there. Because a lot of people who are pursuing in general this path of online entrepreneurship, they're getting lost in the middle because they simply don't do enjoyable things in the right now because they think that this is like, oh, this is like that marshmallow test. I ain't gonna eat that marshmallow for the next 40 years and I'm gonna get like double of those or maybe triple of those. I'm gonna get 40x of it. 40x, man. Okay. Like, don't eat that marshmallow. I'm gonna eat like a little bit of it. But I'm gonna be like satiated. I'm gonna enjoy my life because this is what I want to do. Because it's like I'm not even sure whether like in 10 years I'm gonna be there. In 5 days. You never know. Do you want your last day to be miserable? No. What principle did Steve Jobs use? He lived each and every single day as if it was his last one.
Yeah. That's where his intensity came from,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And that's where intensity comes from. And this is where also enjoying what you're doing comes from. Because you really can't stick through with something for long enough if you don't enjoy it. I just, I bet everything on this principle. Because otherwise you would not have like even enough dopamine, actually, if we think from like chemical perspective about it. I bet.
Yeah, there's probably some scientific stuff there. And going back to anti-fragility, I think a lot of people, even Talib himself, the guy that came up with it, like, I
Yeah.
think the way they explain anti-fragility is, oh, you got to do these hard things, and then and because they're hard, they will make you stronger. But what if it's, I think there's another side to it. I think the so-called not hard things or unproductive things, like hanging out with your niece, or for me, taking a hot shower, actually also adds strength to your anti-fragility, because even though they're not making you rich, they are making you rich, just not through the monetary sense. They're making you rich in your soul, and when your soul is stronger, naturally that makes you more anti-fragile to everything else. And I think the reason why so many entrepreneurs that are like in the middle, like you were talking about, like in between Imagaji and complete beginner, is because we look at people at, oh, or like the middle entrepreneur looks up towards Andrew Tate, looks up towards uh, Imagaji, and they think that's the lifestyle that I want. I want to live the digital nomad. I want to go live in Bali, sip coconuts, and lounge on the beach all day, because that's what they're doing. That's what they're telling me that I want. That's the life that they're selling me. And that is why I feel a lot of younger starting entrepreneurs have so much drive to just work really hard, even if they hate it. That's where it comes from. You know, the guy I had on my previous podcast, Fabian, he made like 27,000 cold calls for his SMMA agency by himself. And like there's times whenever he was sick in his bed, but he was still picking up the phone to dial. And he hated every second of it, but he still did it because he wanted this dream to work out so that he could have that millionaire lifestyle. And to bring it all back to your point, it's like, do you even want that lifestyle? Like, do you truly actually want that? Or do you want to just hang out with your niece, or spend the day with your mom, or have a picnic with your your dog or something? You know, it's what do you think about that? Like, do you think that the lifestyle that people sell us is something that we genuinely need to pursue, or do you think it's the more simple things that actually bring us the most fulfillment?
Okay, this is a really good one. And this is something that is actually a good angle for somebody who wants like to break into the space in general, to either go ahead and like become like second Andrew Tate, or go ahead and like flip everything that Andrew Tate says and like build your own tribe, you know, if we're speaking of like building communities and personal brands. This is just like a side note. But in overall, I would say, and I just extremely want to believe in that, and this is something that has worked out for me so far, because the moment when I see the downfall in like my own productivity and in the quality of work that I do, and obviously quality of work corresponds directly to every single outcome that I have in life in terms of all of that output that we're talking about, was exactly when I stopped prioritizing myself. And when you stop prioritizing yourself, you prioritize everything around you. Everything around you stops prioritizing you at that moment, you know. Like everybody else thinks that you're not worth anything. And then we have those people who just think that their worth is this much, well actually it's this much, but everybody treats them as this much. That's like, some form of fake it till you make it, or like, be until you receive it, or like whatever we have out here. I would say that I want to have both. And I know that both comes from me first having pleasure here so that I can actually go ahead and have pleasure in any sort of situation where I am at. And it takes, this is also another problem, that because obviously I have been in the place where I was just going ahead and chasing after this like specific goal of like, oh, I'm gonna be in like Dubai, I don't know, in all of those places. This is when there was like obviously a time for me to go ahead and send little videos to nail salons in Manchester. And if somebody from a nail salon in Manchester is watching this right now, I am so sorry. Most likely also you won't recognize me even right now, but it's like I'm really so sorry. Okay, for like all of this. And I've sent quite a lot of film videos to quite a lot of salons in Manchester, and not just nail salons, but to beauty salons. So I'm sorry. Okay, I tried to sell you some cheap Upwork Facebook ads labor and like white label it because Iman Gadzi told me so. I'm sorry. I was an impressible, easily impressed. Yes, a young kiddo. I'm still is young kiddo that is easily impressed though. Not gonna lie. But it never worked out. What worked out is when I started pursuing first finding my own inner happiness, then giving everybody else this happiness, and everybody else gave me this happiness back. You see that, you see the power of camera. Oh my. Yeah, and so this is exactly what I also mean by this anti-fragility and inner strength, and that sort of a pole that you can always hold on to no matter what around you is happening. Because when you don't know what you want, when you don't know who you are, when you don't know what exactly makes you happy, apart from superficial things, then everyone else can sway you in 1,000 different directions wherever they want to sway you. And this is exactly when you think that you can manipulate anyone, but in reality, everybody manipulates you. This is the biggest problem, is that we cannot stay true to ourselves. And at times it is hard because suddenly you just think that all of your dreams and ambitions are stupid. If you look back, everybody's dreams and ambitions were stupid. Everybody's vision was stupid. They somehow made it. It's like, obviously, somebody might go ahead and argue that, oh, but it's like you're not being next Steve Jobs. Heck, how do you know? Hey, come on. How do you know that? I might be talking to you, Ryan, right now, and you might be next Joe Rogan. That is so bad
Or
if I
no.
tell you right now and stomp your dream of being next Joe Rogan, whoever you want to be. Maybe you're not
Yeah.
the next
Anybody
Joe
that's
Rogan. Maybe you're
accomplished,
the Ryan, you know?
yeah, anybody that's
This is the
accomplished
thing.
great things was called stupid. Was like told that they shouldn't do this. It's not going to work out. It's never going to work out. Steve Jobs was told that. Rogan was probably told that. Every single person that has done exceptional things, extraordinary things, has been called dumb and stupid. So that it's almost a good heuristic to use if people are telling you to not do something, or if people are telling you that it's never going to work out, realizing that even if it is that way, even if it feels that way, even to yourself, just know that everyone else that has achieved the caliber of the thing that you dream of achieving has had that same exact experience. So that brings me a lot of kind of inner belief with the podcast, because a lot of the
Yeah.
podcasters that are a lot more transparent about their journey have said how painful it was at the beginning and how little belief that anybody had in them, including themselves. And it brings me so much relief to know that my experience isn't my own experience. Like I'm not the only one that has experienced this, and that this is just a part of the journey. And I think that's
Yep.
what a lot of entrepreneurs need to understand. They need to understand that the people that are at where you want to go have been through what you're going through now, even if it sucks.
That is true. But I mean, at the same time, even if you were to be trailblazer, that would have been just a little bit harder on you mentally, but that would have been a lot more interesting. But I mean, also, it's even better that we don't know for sure whether something is going to work out or not, and we just have to have blind faith in it at times. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been fun. It's just the truth.
Yeah,
And
not knowing makes it so much more fun.
yes, and it's like, in just in overall, I probably won't understand still logic of people who are just grounded, because you still need to have like this creative outlet. And I mean, in a way that they're just into like raw, like, hey, this business model is going to work out because of XYZ. I'm not talking about throw all of your analytics away and don't, like, ever look at them, and don't look at like rational side. But you also have to evaluate and evaluate uh, whether or not what you're actually doing is at least somewhat enjoyable to you. Because if it's not enjoyable to you, there's no point in doing it. You're just building yourself another job, and you're slaving away for this like dream that you've like said before. And it's not really the experience that I would wish anyone actually.
I just thought of a good way to put anti-fragility. So whenever you do hard things in hopes of building up this anti-fragility, you get this muscle that is a glass cannon. So it's really, really powerful. So if you learn a bunch of skills, let's say you want to start a video editing agency, right? And so
Oh
at the
my.
beginning, you're all by yourself. You have to figure everything out. So you learn how to video edit. You learn everything that Adobe has ever released because you got to edit videos. You learn all that stuff. You learn about photography. You learn about color grading. You learn all that stuff. You build up these skills, but and you only did it because some guru told you to do it, and you're gonna make a lot of money. You're promised to make 6 figures by the end of next week, and so you're learning all these skills, and so you build up this fragility that's actually like a glass cannon. So you're really powerful, but you're also very weak. And once you put yourself close enough to the edge and you fall off the edge, you're instantly broken. Right? A glass cannon is very powerful, but also very weak. And so I think that's where the balance of doing things that you enjoy comes in. That's what adds the durability to your anti-fragility. It's by doing hard things, learning skills, building skills, but
Yeah.
at the same time, meshing it together with things you enjoy. That's what forges a really powerful anti-fragility, I think.
Yes, and this is also what specifically builds strong character. Because we do not have a strong character the moment when we get, let's say, something taken away from us, and we start like breaking down and like not knowing what to do. And we do not build a strong character by always doing the same repetitive thing and then becoming one trick pony. This is not the way how it goes. And oftentimes doing a hard thing is actually just going outside and touching grass, despite what everyone else says, how you have to stay hard and like work hard and do all of those things. Sometimes it's way harder to touch the grass for a lot of people, actually. This is, at the same time, this is so sad. Think about it. This is not what we were actually designed for in the beginning, of like Inception and everything. We were designed to just go ahead, explore this world, open new opportunities to ourselves, breathe, and like just enjoy our lives. Now we're thinking
Going
that
to
we have to be
charities.
stuck in cubicles like robots. Sorry for interrupting you.
All right. Valeria, I love ending off every episode with one question. If you were to have the opportunity to re-experience 1 minute of one moment of one memory in your life again, what experience would you choose to live through again?
This is a really good question. I'm stealing it from you. No, seriously. But I think immediate answer that comes to mind that I would not re-experience everything to change it because I believe that otherwise I would have a completely different outcome. And I don't really want to have a completely different outcome, no matter what situation I might be in, because it is still the best outcome that I might have ever had in overall
Indeed.
if I've made best ever decisions and I don't ever question my decisions that I've made before. It's
Think
like
of yourself as a
it's fast.
spectator. You can't change the
Yeah, but
past. Just keep watching it. Yeah.
as spectator, I would probably exactly come back to the moment when I was actually recording that one video when there was like no electricity and when I was posting it. That was like I would just rewatch it again because that was in a way something that was so rational to do, but it made now perfect sense why I did it, and it brought good outcomes in a way. So that's something that is sort of interesting. There are many more of those moments. I think we need to live to make sure that each and every single moment is the one that we would want to replay and look at again.
Well, I love that. Yeah.
That's a quote
Okay.
right here.
Banger. Put that in the description of the video. Put that in the show notes. Okay, Valeria, let the world know what you've got going on. So this is the part where you get to plug anything or just let me know
Got
if
it.
you got anything cool planned in the future.
Okay, I mean, if there's one thing that I would like to probably plug under this is not like, oh, if you're a business under like $10 million revenue, just go ahead, click on this website. No, I'm fed up of this. I would probably just go ahead and plug my social media in here. Maybe I'm gonna comment under this post with like something like whoopity scoop. I don't know. I'm exactly gonna write that so that you know it's me, and then you can go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. And so, yeah, probably there's going to be my Instagram and Twitter. Not sure what I'm going to be doing at that moment. Probably sharing something about just my life as a student, former or current, probably current entrepreneur, but just not selling anything like openly on like social media for at least a bit. Talking about mental stability, anti-fragility, productivity, just all the goofy good stuff. Yep.
Hope I get this right. The pronunciation. Ladies and gentlemen, Valeria Stavitska. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved this episode. Completely different from what I am used to getting, but definitely refreshing. So thank you for hopping on the show.
Thank you a lot for having me.